Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mero Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to take a look at the Golden State Warriors Houston Rockets series, Game 2, of this series kicking off later tonight. And yeah, you can see from the title, this is absolutely a must-win game for the Houston Rockets. The reason I say that, you're in Houston. You have home court advantage. You lose game one on your home turf. That is already a bad sign. Losing game one on your home turf is not a good sign. If you lose game two, going back to Golden State, this series could be over quick, fast, and in a hurry. Especially a young Houston Rockets team with of course, we have Ime Udoka, who's been to the NBA Finals. He played against Steph Curry in the NBA Finals as a member of the Boston Celtics. Absolutely 100%. He knows he has the experience. Under Greg Popovich, he came from the Greg Popovich tree as well. He has the experience. He knows about what it's like going in road playoff games. Outside of him, the only player that has any experience in the NBA playoffs, really the only player that has any experience in the NBA playoffs, is Fred VanVleet, an NBA champion with the Toronto Raptors, absolutely. Spent years with the Toronto Raptors, absolutely. Has played in probably over 50 playoff games, I'd say. Absolutely, he has the experience as well. Outside of VanVleet, this is a team of young guys. This is a team with Alperen Şengün, a player that hasn't seen the playoffs in his day. Jalen Green has never seen the playoffs. I believe it's his second or third year. Jabari Smith Jr., same boat. Steven Adams has seen some days in the NBA playoffs. Absolutely. He's another player that has some experience. But what I'm getting at is, in the same way, if the Los Angeles Lakers lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, their series would be over. This is the same situation for the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets have to win tonight. They must win against Golden State tonight, or else the series is over. If you want to talk, either it could be in 4, it could be a clean sweep, it could be in 5, it could be in 6. But this series is over, OVER, if Houston loses tonight. This game is that crucial of a game. It is that crucial momentum. If you can split 1-1 at home and do the same in Golden State, that puts you in a good spot 2-2 going into those last 3 games. That is where you want to be if you're the Houston Rockets. But the Warriors are just implementing, they're just dictating what they want. They dictated that game one. They really did. From the opening tip, honestly, it was both teams going back and forth defensively, absolutely. But two defensive teams that have been stifling all year long. I believe in the second quarter, with 3 or 4 more minutes left in the second quarter, it was 38-34. That just proves how much of a defensive game this is. I believe both teams had less than 30 points at the end of one. Overall, it was just an incredibly defensive game in the first half. But what sparked it for the Golden State Warriors? What made them the definitive difference in this game? Why did the Warriors prevail in this game? That's because of one guy. I know everybody knows it. Steph Curry. Steph Curry, one of the greatest point guards in the NBA ever. NBA history. Probably, if either one or two, either him or Magic Johnson, arguably, and he could be argued as the number one with how he's impacted the game, with how many championships he has, with how important, how vital he's been to this team, especially as he's gotten older. Since Kevin Durant departed from there, since winning the title in 2022, he's only gotten better. And this year, shooting the best he ever has in his NBA career. In that game one against the Houston Rockets, Steph Curry shot, I can remember 3 specifically, if not 4, moments where the Houston Rockets went on runs. Not only the second quarter, not only the third quarter, also the fourth quarter, all 3 quarters. Steph Curry shot. The Rockets would go on like 10-0 runs, 7-0 runs, cut the lead down to about to cut it down to single digits, cutting down to 3 points at one point. And it was just Steph Curry shooting I don't want to call it a nonsense three because for 99.9% of the NBA or basketball fans or basketball players anywhere, that is a bad shot that he shoots. The shot in the corner over Amen Thompson, the moon ball shot is a crazy shot that down by, I believe that one was in the second quarter, at the tail end of the second quarter, or at the beginning of the third. That put them above, that put the lead up to about 8 points, I believe. Another one at the top of the key, or not top of the key, top left of the key, from another 35 feet out from the logo, from the Toyota Center logo, also over Amen Thompson, another moon ball. That one is the one that I remember vividly because it was 76-73 before he shot that, and that goes in, makes it a 6-point game, destroys any momentum that the Houston Rockets had. At the end of the day, the Rockets' issue in this series boils down to Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the difference maker, is what makes the Warriors so potent offensively, makes them so dangerous, because as good as they are, as good as anybody can be defensively, Steph Curry's proven time and time again that he can make his own shot. Any player that can create his own shot the way Steph Curry does is a top 5 talent in the league. It's a unique talent to be able to create your own shot. And it's what sets the stars from the superstars, I'd say. Because what I just mentioned, a stifling defense like the Rockets had, both teams in a stalemate. What is the team that breaks that? What is the team that starts to pull away, that starts to set themselves apart? The player with the reliable shooter, the reliable scorer, the one that goes out there, creates his own shot and gets his own shot, generates a team's momentum. Being a team's generator in that way, an energy bunny, that is Steph Curry. And that is so unique, and that's why Steph Curry is in that MVP conversation, one of the most valuable players in this year, in the NBA period, in NBA history, in NBA today, in general. He's still a top 3 point guard in the NBA, no question. He's a top 2 point guard of all time, no question. He's to have a young team like the Rockets, to have them struggle as much as they do offensively, and have a guy like Steph Curry on the other side that can just take over the game by himself, is what separates these two teams, or that's what separates them for now. That's what separated them in game 1. The key for the Houston Rockets in game 2 tonight is not their defense. As much as I say their defense needs to step up against Steph Curry so Steph Curry doesn't go ballistic for 30 points again. We saw at the tail end of the regular season, Steph Curry only had 3 points when Amen Thompson guarded him. I believe he went 1 for 10 from 3-point range, and he didn't have a good day at all. And the Warriors ended up losing that game by 10 points. If the Rockets want to beat the Golden State Warriors, they need to do 2 things. They need to shoot the ball better than they did in game 1. They shot atrociously in game 1. Amen Thompson, Fred VanVleet shot 2 of 13, I believe, from 3-point range. Kept shooting them because he's the only shooter on this team. Jalen Green having a very porous night, having a mediocre night, not his best game at all. But if they can get some shots going, if they can get the basketball flowing through the hoop, if they can see the basketball go through the hoop and just get some confidence, get some momentum on the offensive end of the ball, I think that will just spell a game plan for them overall. If that is the first piece to this. The second piece to this puzzle is shutting down Steph Curry. And I say that very lightly because you can't double him. Amen Thompson needs to step up to the challenge on Steph Curry, the same way he did in the regular season, the same way he has done in previous years, the same way he has done on multiple superstars this year, being one of the defensive players of the year candidates. Absolutely no questions asked. He needs to come out and he needs to shut down Steph Curry to under. If Steph Curry has over 15 points in this game, it's just tough to beat when Steph Curry's getting going and it's tough to shut him down at the same time because he has a running mate running mate by the name of Jimmy Butler, who is one of the most terrifying NBA performers, playoff performers in NBA history. So that's all that needs to be said about Jimmy Butler. He's a nightmare to guard. He's a nightmare to plan for. He's already he's a facilitator. He plays at his own pace. His style is his own. He's a one of one Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. So he is as good as anybody. He turns into a superstar talent in the NBA playoffs, and he deserves it. No questions asked. That is the problem with doubling Steph Curry, though, because it leaves Jimmy Butler open to go off for 40 points, which is easily as potent as Steph Curry going off for 30. I believe in game one, these two players had 30 points apiece. I'll check that really quick. But Steph had 31, Jimmy Butler had 25. But yeah, this series is not over. If the Rockets can win tonight, going back to Golden State, I think they'll be in a much better spot. But I just don't know exactly how. I just don't know how this is going to keep going. I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to scheme up to deal with the Warriors' offense. That is the issue for the Rockets, and if they can't figure that puzzle out, they're borderline doomed in this game, because that is the biggest thing that we lamented about the Houston Rockets before these playoffs, and this is my last thing before I move on to my next segment, was their defense. And if they can't play strong defense on Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, and their offense gets exposed the way it did in game one, this series could be over in 5 games. And I don't want to say that because I want this series to go 7 games. I love the Houston Rockets this year. I love Ime Udoka. He's one of my coaches of the year. If it wasn't for JB Bickerstaff in Detroit, he would be my coach of the year candidate. A very young, growing team around Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Jalen Green. A bunch of young guys, young group, reminds me of the 2017 Boston Celtics. I've said it before. But when you go up against a Steph Curry, a Jimmy Butler, a superstar player, superstar talent, your odds are stacked against you because they have all the experience. They've seen you guys before. They've seen teams like you, and they know how to pick you apart. They know how to demoralize you. They know how to get you off your game, how to make you lose some confidence, get in your head. And if they get in your head, it's game over. It's series over. So I want the Rockets to make this series a little bit more interesting. I do have the Warriors winning this series, but based simply off their experience. But I did think Amen Thompson would be much more of a threat. It was only 1 game. We'll see tonight. If they lose tonight, we've said this before. If they lose tonight, this series is over. In 4 or 5 games, one of the two. Unless Houston goes into Golden State and wins both of those games, which is, I'd give them a 15% chance of doing. They have to go out and win game 3 before they win game 4. But if they lose tonight in Houston, the series is over. That's just my personal take. But that's where I'm going to leave it off. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Orlando Magic Boston Celtics series. I knew that's what I was doing next. Talk a little bit about the Orlando Magic. Talk a little bit about Jason Tatum's injury, how much it hinders the Boston Celtics. I touched on it a little bit yesterday, but officially the news coming out about his wrist. Jason Tatum listed as doubtful for tomorrow night, or tonight, I should say. We're gonna take a look at what to really expect from the Boston Celtics tonight for offensively, and how the Orlando Magic can go after the Boston Celtics and possibly steal a game from Boston in Boston, going back to Orlando. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about that series.